I'm revoking Presidential Directives 20 and 51, which give me dictatorial powers. I ask for repeal of the misnamed Patriot Act, the Military Commissions Act, and all the martial law and special and dictatorial powers acts passed in the last 8 years. And restoring the Constitution means ending the imperial presidency and returning power to the people's representatives. But I warn you, members of Congress, if you continue to violate your constitutional responsibility to serve your constituents and instead serve only yourselves and the big money interests you're indebted to, I will go over your heads to the American people and ask them to retire all of you, regardless of party. Now, to take power away from the global robber barons, we're going to institute electoral reform, media reform, and banking reform. And you'll find all of this on our website. But electoral reform includes the fact that the constitutional principle of one person, one vote means that any method of voting which does not produce a paper ballot which can be counted, recounted, and audited as necessary is unconstitutional. I ask the Congress and the states to return to paper ballots and institute full public financing of elections, proportional representation, instant runoff voting, abolition of burdensome petition requirements on independents and third parties, and so working people can actually vote, making Election Day a federal holiday. I also ask Congress to quickly pass a constitutional amendment restoring the original meaning of this document. The amendment says, corporations and other fictitious entities are not persons under this Constitution and shall have none of the rights and privileges thereof. On media reform, I have ordered the Federal Communications Commission, headed by Bill Moyers, to immediately reinstate the ban on multiple ownership of media outlets. It's time for a return to family-owned newspaper and radio and television stations. Sorry, Mr. Murdoch. When it comes to banking reform, this Constitution gives Congress the power to issue our money and to do it debt-free. I ask Congress to end the debt-based monetary system and to pass legislation abolishing the Federal Reserve. And until you do, I've ordered the Treasury Department to issue debt-free greenbacks, which will be given to the people so that they can pay their debts. This is not unprecedented. Abraham Lincoln did it. To indict members of the Bush administration, including the former president and vice president, as war criminals. Yeah. They exploited the 9/11 tragedy to deceive this nation into unnecessary and illegal wars of aggression against Afghanistan and Iraq. They abused their power, violated the Constitution and their oath of office. The evidence of their guilt is absolutely overwhelming. We have recently seen a hoax. Man and woman with a homemade balloon telling the authorities that their 6-year-old boy was in that balloon. The sheriff's office got involved. 2 helicopters went up. They finally got the balloon down safely. No boy. Oh my God, he's fallen out. We got to look for his body on the desert of Colorado someplace. Well, it turned out the boy was safe at home. And it was all a hoax to get the parents on a reality show. Needless to say, the sheriff is going to bring charges, and rightly so. Most of the people around the country think it's a good idea. I mean, this couple scared folks, created unnecessary fear, cost the taxpayers $100,000. Fortunately, no one was hurt or killed. What do we do about the much larger hoax where the whole American people in all our military services were put into action with false fears against amorphous enemies who were no threat to us for personal profit in the very same way. But in this instance, it didn't cost us taxpayers $100,000. It's cost us $3 to $5 trillion. It's cost us well over 5,000 of our young soldiers. It's cost over 1 million lives of innocent Iraqi and Afghani civilians. And it's cost us our civil rights. Shouldn't that hoax be punished as well? Now, when I was sworn in, I assume it's the same for the rest of the folks, I promised to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that includes a renegade president and vice president. Now, if I or any member of my administration ever gives illegal orders, such as we've seen in the recent past, I expect the military to refuse them and to take action against us. Your duty to the Constitution far exceeds any perceived loyalty to any person. Those of you in the military and law enforcement have taken the same oath and must never follow orders to participate in a war of aggression. And you must never follow orders to disarm, arrest, or incarcerate your fellow American citizens who are exercising their constitutional right of dissent. Those attempting to take away our rights have cited the phony war on terror and the attack of September 11, 2001 to justify their actions. But there's also evidence of a massive cover-up with respect to 9/11 itself. The official 9/11 report, tightly controlled by the Bush White House, amounts to little but a whitewash. I've spoken directly, personally, to the co-chairs of that commission who had no authority over how it was conducted or what was in the final report, and they say it's full of lies. Now, when you combine this with the confiscation of videotapes, audio tapes, black boxes, and other evidence by the FBI, it is clear that regardless of who was responsible for 9/11, the subsequent cover-up was itself a conspiracy involving elements of the White House and intelligence establishment. Truth about 9/11 is that after 8 years, we still don't know the truth about 9/11, and we should. I have therefore appointed a commission to conduct a new and truly independent investigation of 9/11. It will be coordinated by my Vice President, Cynthia McKinney. But 9/11 is not the only truth we're concerned about. There have been many, many other government myths over the years. You, the American people, have been lied to about important events, including the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. There have been many recent cover-ups, and I'd like to mention just one, because that's all the time I have. It's the murders of a number of our soldiers in the field, most of them women. If the Pentagon won't do a proper investigation, we'll do it for them. Parents have a right to know what really happened to soldiers like Pat Tillman and Lavina. Now, most Americans have heard of Pat Tillman, football star turned war hero turned conscientious objector. He was supposedly killed accidentally by friendly fire. Well, believe me, there is nothing friendly about a barrage of bullets fired from closer than 10 feet. Forensic evidence indicates that Pat Tillman was deliberately fragged because he turned against the war. But few Americans have heard of Lavina Johnson. Lavina was a lovely young African-American girl, Christian and a virgin. She volunteered to serve in Iraq at the age of 18. Well, her body was discovered in a Halliburton tent, and her body shipped home in a closed casket. Her parents were told not to open the casket. But her father's a physician. I happen to know him personally. And Dr.